What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka NinosCorner, man. The NFL draft is over now. We've gone through rounds 1 through 7. We got a chance to see who got drafted, who didn't get drafted, what teams drafted very well, what teams didn't draft very well. So I'm going to kind of go into some installments this weekend, give you guys a little bit of information when it comes to the draft. Who I thought had a decent draft, who I thought had great drafts, who I thought didn't have good drafts at all. So we'll start off with what teams I thought had good drafts and had some surprising picks. I'm going to start off with my favorite team, which is the Dallas Cowboys, and I feel like the Dallas Cowboys got a hell of a pick with the first pick of the draft and CeeDee Lamb, and just the improvement in his production level, just over these past 2 years. If you look at his 2018 season, CeeDee Lamb was still one of the top wide receivers in the country, and he posted a Ninos Corner number, which you guys will hear me say my NCN, which stands for Ninos Corner number. He posted a Ninos Corner number, guys, of 69.7 in his sophomore year, which was actually truly amazing for any kind of wide receiver. If you put that into perspective on the NFL side of the house, 76 NCN was the score for Chris Godwin. He was the most efficient wide receiver in the league this year, so he led all wide receivers in the NFL. You extrapolate CeeDee Lamb's numbers in 2018 to the NFL side of the house, it's a 68.7, so just a single point drop off, which means to say that he's a very consistent wide receiver when it comes to his efficiency and his effectiveness as a catcher, as a ball catcher, as a playmaker. His explosive play rate is just through the roof. And in 2018, guys, let's take a look. His explosive play rate per target was 26.8%, so 28%. For the college level, and on the NFL side of the house, it's 18.3%. So, guys, I calculate the numbers a little bit different when it comes to the NFL and college. I count the college plays that are explosive in nature as being 15 yards, and the NFL plays as being 20 yards. So if you see a drop off in the player, like a significant drop off in the player, that's showing that they're getting a lot of 15-yard catches when it comes to being an explosive player. But on the NFL side of the house, that number has to extrapolate to 20-yard catches or more, or 20-yard runs or more when it comes to a running back. And if a person's number drops off like 30% to 5%, that lets you know that they're very explosive for the college side of the house. But on the NFL side of the house, when you have to beat more talented DBs, more talented linebackers, you got to get 20 yards. And it really separates people who are going to be possession receivers versus people who are going to be truly explosive players. So that was CeeDee Lamb's 2018 season, guys. He had a 69.7 NCN. And if you look at his 2019 season, how could he get better? He got a whole lot better because he was now the number one option. In the 2018 season, he was the clear-cut number two option behind Hollywood Brown, who's now playing on Sundays for the Baltimore Ravens. So when CeeDee Lamb became the number one option, his NCN at the college level jumped up to an 80.6, which is extremely high. His explosive rate per target jumped up from 26.8% in 2018 to 35.4% in 2019. And on the NFL side of the house, for his NFL rate when it comes to catching explosive plays, it went up from 18.3% in 2018 to 28% in 2019. So his numbers went off the board overall better from his sophomore to his junior year. And so he was the man. And what's very, I guess, humbling about that stat for him is that he was continuously seeing double coverages pretty much every game. He didn't have that luxury in his true sophomore year because you had Hollywood Brown on one side, so you couldn't double team CD or Hollywood because both were just that good. So in saying that, when it became truly his team, he was able to get the ball. He showed that he could really ball out. His 40 time wasn't the fastest at the combine as what I thought it would be. However, hey, when you get that guy in space, he's a monster. And one thing that I love about his play is a lot of guys run 4.4s, a lot of guys run 4.3s, but when they put the pads on, they don't run like they have a 4.3 or a 4.4 speed. CeeDee Lamb definitely runs like let's say for instance, he runs a 4.5 without pads, and I'm pretty sure he runs a 4.4 with pads. That's how quick he is. That's how fast he is. He carries it, and he's a strong player too. If you turn on the tape and watch him, he's always breaking tackles. His yards after catch is something amazing, and he high points the ball very well. Very reminiscent of a Dez Bryant kind of player, but way more wiggle. Way more wiggle. He's way more elusive. I can't wait to see him line up on Sundays in a Cowboy uniform, with me being a Cowboys fan, to have him, Amari Cooper, and Gallup on the same team. It's going to be an amazing trio of wide receivers. So, CeeDee Lamb, his numbers went up from his sophomore to junior year. That's truly amazing. I thought the Cowboys had a good draft. I think another team that had a good draft, that had some great sleeper picks, were the Arizona Cardinals. Sure, they could have probably picked an offensive lineman a little bit sooner to keep Kyler Murray upright. I think he is definitely going to be the cornerstone of the team. He had a hell of a season last year. But what they did do in that first round was get possibly the best defensive player in the whole draft, and Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. And they end up picking up the tackle from Houston, I think the second or third round. But they had just an overall good draft. But I want to highlight one of the guys I think who's going to be a sleeper for them, and I don't think a lot of people realize just how good this guy is. This guy had a third or fourth round grade on him. His name is Benjamin. He's the running back from Arizona State. He got drafted in the 7th round for the Cardinals. I think that was a hell of a steal for the Cardinals. Benjamin, if you'd have told me after his sophomore year that he was going to go in the 7th round, I would have probably told you guys, I would have probably slapped you. After his sophomore year, guys, let's just look at what he did. Benjamin was a true beast in the 2018 season. He had an NCN score of 81.41. 81.42 was his NCN total. The only running back that I tracked in the 2018 season that had a higher NCN was Travis Etienne from Clemson, and we all know how explosive that he is. But he had 107.9 NCN, which is off the record. I mean, I haven't seen a score that high even in the NFL. He was just that elusive and great his sophomore season. But let's talk about Benjamin. He had the second highest NCN in college football with an 81.42. And how did he get that number, guys? He was a hell of a receiver and a hell of a rusher. The dude averaged almost 5.5 yards a carry. So he had 300 attempts, 1,642 yards, guys, 16 touchdowns, another 35 receptions for 263 yards. 7.5 yards a reception, 2 reception touchdowns. So the thing that he was really good at, his catch percentage was really well. So he had an 81.4% catch percentage, which was higher than Travis Etienne's. The only other player who had a higher catch percentage amongst the major guys that were coming out this year was J.K. Dobbins in 2018. He had an 83.87 catch percentage. His first downs, he had 16 first down receptions in 2018, and he had 5 reception explosive plays. So he was really getting after it. His rushing yards, like I said, guys, he was amazing. Let me see. He had 30 explosive running plays in 2018 and only 1 fumble in 2018. So his NCN, like I said, was an 81.4 for his sophomore year, the 2018 season at Arizona State. I was expecting big things from him his junior year, because I just kind of knew that this kid was going to go pro, because he just has kind of like that it factor. But he didn't have the best season. He had a 55.4 NCN in 2019. which is not high at all. Not high at all, guys. I was expecting a lot better for him. However, there are some reasons why he had 5 fumbles this past year compared to the one in 2018. So he has to get the ball secured a little bit better. He dropped a lot of easy catches this year also, even though he had a catch percentage, guys, of 81%. Could have been a lot higher. He dropped some pretty easy balls. But his average yards per catch went up by a yard, went up to 8.3 yards per catch. But his yards per rush, guys, went down to 4.3%. I'm sorry, not 4.3%, but 4.3 yards per attempt. He only had 1,083 yards this year, guys. But once you go back and look at the Arizona State team, and you look at what made that offense really click, it was the fact that they had Eno Benjamin, who was probably, if not the best running back in the Pac-12 in 2018. But they also had a very good dual threat quarterback, and who was Manny Wilkins in 2018. And Manny Wilkins was a really good runner, 4.4 yards per attempt, and those are with sacks counted in. That's how college does it. College counts your sack yardage into your rushing yards for a quarterback, and you were still able to average 4.5 yards or nearly 4.5 yards per attempt. The guy that they had this year, Jaden Daniels, is not as good of a runner as Manny Wilkins, or not as elusive, and he averaged like 2.3 yards per attempt. So when you look at that with Benjamin, you're looking at a guy that when the defenses line up against him, they're going to realize that he's going to run, and they don't have to worry about the threat of the quarterback running as much as they did the previous season. So they can put the 9 in the box to stop him and not have to worry about the quarterback. Now, they did have a good wide receiver, this year, who got drafted in the first round by the 49ers. I think Brandon Ayuka. Yeah, but man, he can ball. But anyways, it's not about him today. It's about Benjamin today. But I think that was one of the main reasons that Benjamin did not have a season that that I thought he was going to have. But I think he's going to be a definite steal for the Arizona Cardinals this year. I think with a guy like Kyler Murray, who can run the ball, and Benjamin fits that mold of play with the zone read, and he's been running that pretty much probably his whole life, because he's a Texas kid down from Marshall, Texas, around the Wiley area, and he was really good in high school. I thought, I'm a Longhorn guy, you guys know that. I thought the Longhorns should have picked him instead of Tennille Carter. However, Benjamin did not get heavily recruited by the Longhorns. Going to Arizona State and lit that college afire, and is now in the league. So I think it's going to be a definite steal. A 7th-round draft pick for a guy who should have been a 3rd or 4th rounder is a definite steal for a team like the Cardinals. I can see him and Kenyon Drake definitely being a 1-2 punch. He's going to have to climb up that depth chart, but with David Johnson now out of the equation, you got Kenyon Drake there. You have Benjamin. Don't be surprised at how well this guy is going to do in the league, guys. I think he's going to be a pretty decent running back in this league. Smaller in stature, 5'9", maybe 210 pounds. Not the fastest guy, like a 4.55, 4.57 guy in the 40. But he is a very physical runner. And he hides behind his offensive lineman pretty well. So I think him coupled with Kenyon Drake will be a pretty nice 1-2 punch. He can catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield. Kenyon Drake really excels at that. Something that Benjamin's going to have to work on a little bit more to get on that level. But I think it's going to be a great steal for the Arizona Cardinals there in that 7th round, guys. And on that note, guys, we're going to go to a small break, guys, and then we're going to come back and talk winners and losers of the draft. All right, NinosCorner. All right, guys, and we're back after the break. So we're going to talk, winners and losers from the draft this past weekend. I want to start off and say that I think we got 3 definite teams. Well, we got more than 3. This was a very deep draft, and teams took advantage of the depth of this draft. But some teams I thought they had a really good draft, guys. The Vikings had a really, really good draft. I'm going to go through my notes here, guys. So they got Justin Jefferson from LSU. Perfect slot guy. The only thing about this is that we all know that Adam Thielen is their slot guy. And Justin Jefferson, I think over 90% of his snaps at LSU were from the slot. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work in Thielen and Justin Jefferson at the same time, because you want your 1st-round pick. He's a 1st-round pick. He's expected to play. Do they run 2 guys in the slot? Do they kick one guy out to the outside, or what? It's going to be interesting. Can Thielen play the outside wideout, or can Justin Jefferson play the outside wideout? We shall see. But Justin Jefferson, just from a quality pick and just just a player, he can ball, man. I love the pick. I also love the pick. Let's take a look at it. Oh yeah, Jeff Gladney. Yeah, he's a very good DB. I think their sleeper pick is going to be their defensive tackle that they got, James Lynch out of Baylor. That dude's a monster. Very strong and physical guy, sets the edge really well. Baylor was able to run a three-man front in the Big 12, which is so hard to do, guys. It's so hard to run a three-man front because of the spread offenses and teams able to gash you up the middle due to you having to run a three-man front. Baylor was able to run a three-man front and be very successful, not only in the conference but also in the bowl game. They didn't win the bowl game, however, James Lynch is a monster, guys. I mean, this guy sets the edge very well. He played a little bit of defensive tackle, a little bit of defensive end. He kind of went all over the line. That's why I think it's going to be a valuable piece to the Vikings this season and for seasons that are coming up. So I think it's going to be a steal for them. Other guys who had a great draft, guys. Oh man, Baltimore Ravens, man. Patrick Queen from LSU at the linebacker position, very quick linebacker. Like the Ravens have been missing a great linebacker since they lost C.J. Mosley, J.K. Dobbins in the second round. Wow, talk about value. You pair him in the backfield with a Mark Ingram, so you can spell Ingram. J.K. Dobbins is a very strong runner, a one-cut guy. I remember him coming out of the state of Texas, coming out of high school, going to Ohio State, and just seeing how electric he was. He's not the tallest guy, which is great because he can hide behind his blocks. Very stout runner. Love the way he runs. Man, he can ball out. He had a sophomore slump. Freshman year was amazing, a little bit of a sophomore slump, and then last year, we saw J.K. Dobbins ball out, especially with a good quarterback who can run the ball too in Justin Fields. Now, we're going to see J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram in the backfield. I would love to see them split out, not split out. I would love to see them with, like you got Jackson in the shotgun and Ingram and J.K. Dobbins to the side of Jackson. It's going to be an amazing thing to see over there in Baltimore. Baltimore also got a guy who I really love because he's a Texas guy, but he's a baller. Devin Duvernay probably has the best hands in the draft, and it's not just me saying it. That was a lot of draft analysts have said the same thing. He had two drops over his whole career at Texas. Just think about that for a minute. 2 drops over his whole career. Led the country in receptions last year. A hell of a player, built like a running back, plays the slot. Another weapon for Jackson. He loves to work the middle of the field, and with Devin Duvernay running over the middle of that field, it's going to be an amazing thing to watch. If I'm not mistaken, his NCN was around a 75 or 77. I don't have the exact number, but it was very high also this past year because he caught a lot of balls, didn't drop many, and he was mostly when he was targeted, he caught the ball. So a great pickup for them. He's going to do very well there. I can't wait to see him play. Other teams that had a good draft grade, I already told you guys about my Cowboys. I think the Cowboys were getting CeeDee Lamb there in the first round. That was an awesome pick for them. I thought with them getting CeeDee Lamb that they were not going to get a DB in the second round because all the good DB talent would have been gone off of the board by then. Was I wrong? Trevon Diggs from Alabama, NFL ready body. A very good technician when it comes to being a cornerback out there. I like Gallimore from Oklahoma. I can't believe I'm saying that. I like Oklahoma players. I'm from Texas. However, Gallimore is a freak of nature. He's a very quick twitch guy. I think he ran a 4.8, 4.9 in the 40 at 310 pounds at the combine. A very, very good player. Another guy that I like Robinson from Tulsa. He's good. I like the guard that they got from Wisconsin. Bradley Anai, the edge rusher from Utah. He slipped down to them, I think, to the 5th or 6th round. They ended up picking him up. This guy was a first-team All-American this year. He slipped a lot in the draft because he ran a poor time at the combine. I think he ran a 4.9 40 at the combine. Maybe the jitters, maybe wasn't feeling the best. But then he had a verified time like immediately after the combine because he was not happy. He ran a 4.7, so that cleaned some things up. And I think him not having a pro day kind of hurt his draft stock, just due to this COVID-19. virus. So I think they got a hell of a deal with him too. Other teams that had good drafts, guys. We already talked about the Cardinals earlier. I think they had a very good draft for getting Simmons and then getting Benjamin, getting the tackle. Um, Josh Jones out of Houston. Oh, and they got Rashad Lawrence from LSU. I like guys who stay in the system for 3 to 4 years or 4 years and come back for like their fourth year, and that is what Lawrence did at LSU. Could have easily left after his junior year and probably been a third or fourth round pick, or at worst the same position where he got picked now. But he stayed that extra year. I like guys with that kind of maturity. I think he's going to be a very good fit for that team. Very good vocal leader over there at LSU. A very good player. He's from the where's he from? Monroe or Alexandria, but you guys, I'm from Shreveport originally, so I have a soft, spot in my heart for guys in that area. Now, let's get the teams who I think didn't have the best draft, and let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, what are you doing? You got Aaron Rodgers. I understand that if you want to pick his successor now, that's fine. Jordan Love was not a bad pick to pick up in the first round. But if you're going to pick him in the first round, there's a lot of talent out there at the wide receiver position that could have been had in the second and third rounds. And Green Bay passed it up. 27 wide receivers passed up throughout the draft. They didn't pick a one. 27 wide receivers picked. Green Bay didn't pick a one at the start of the seventh round. That is pathetic. I'm not saying that Green Bay would have beat or can beat the 49ers, but you got to give them a shot. You got to give them a shot. Adams is no kidding a top 10 wide receiver in the league, if not a top 5. But they don't have anybody else that they can say is the guy. And this was a receiver deep draft that I feel like the Green Bay Packers could have drafted somebody to give Aaron Rodgers some help. Now, I wonder, is this like a signal to him like, hey, we're going to move on after this next year or two from you. We just want you to coach this kid up, just like we let Favre coach you up and we let him go. I hope not. You always want to see the greats be treated halfway decent. But hey, guys, at the end of the day, this is a business. And if the guys who are coming into the draft, if you don't see what teams are doing to some of their players, I'm not saying doing to their players, but they had to make business decisions. And so the only thing I can tell you guys is do the best with your business decisions. If they drafted you, act like this is your last contract. Make sure that you are going to be self-sufficient, because you're going to make a bunch of money here in the NFL if you are able to sustain and be on the roster for at least 3 or 4 years. You're going to make more money in 4 years than most people make in 15 to 20. So maximize it, guys. Don't blow the money. This is a business. If teams are willing to replace Aaron Rodgers, if you're an unknown person that's on their roster right now, they will replace you too. This is a business. So Aaron Rodgers is not replaced yet, but they did draft Jordan Love in the first round for a reason. You don't draft guys in the first round if you don't want them to play sooner rather than later. And the sooner rather than later might be in 2 years. Very reminiscent of what Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre situation. I think Brett Favre was 35 when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is 36 right now, and they drafted his probable successor. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. They drafted Pat Mahomes, knowing that they had Alex Smith on the roster. However, he sat for a year, and then he was the starter after that. We shall see what happens. But Green Bay, you had a great team that 13-3, if I'm not mistaken, or 12-4, but you went to the NFC Championship game, and you didn't have any weapons to help your quarterback, who many have arguably said might be the best quarterback of his generation. He's a bad man. That's what Stephen A. Smith said. He's a bad man, right? But you got to give him some help, guys, and that help didn't come. So, on that note, what were you doing? What were you doing, Green Bay Packers? Let me check my notes a little bit more. I think that's the only people I really want to highlight. They did not have the best of draft. I'm sorry, guys. Philadelphia Eagles. I know they're my division. I'm a Cowboy fan. They're my division. Philly. What in the hell were you thinking? All those receivers on the board. All the receivers on the board in the second round. You got Jalen Reagor in the first round. I love the pick. Jalen Reagor from TCU has been a menace to every Big 12 team and every team that he's played throughout his whole career. He's been a menace. The second round, you pick Jalen Hurts in the second round. Nothing against Jalen. I'm so happy for Jalen. He is a guy that I loved watching play. I tell you guys, my in-laws, my wife is from Alabama. They're big UA fans. I have two sister-in-laws that went to UA. I got two nieces that went to UA and that graduated from UA. So it is just kind of amazing to see them not get skill positions to help Carson Wentz. But I kind of understand it because Carson Wentz stays hurt a lot. He's a $100 million man, but he's always hurt. So you kind of have to need somebody that's going to back up your quarterback. And Jalen is a guy who is very mature. He's going to do whatever it takes. Very unselfish player, and that's what you need from your second string quarterback. But just having drafted your second string quarterback in the second round might have been a reach. He might have been available there in the third round, but he's picked in the second round. I'm happy for him. I love the way he plays. I'm a big fan of his, and I hope he does very well, and I hope he's very successful in the NFL, except when he plays the Cowboys. All right, but the rest of their draft, man, not impressed. I mean, I like Hightower. I do like Watkins as far as the wide receivers, but I thought you could have possibly gotten better talent, better quality of player in the second round, and then drafted your backup quarterback in the third or fourth round, or the fourth or fifth round. You had a guy like Fromm that fell to the fifth round. He was there for the pickings. You could have got him in the fourth round. I think Fromm he would have been a good backup in Philly. A guy like Eason would have been a good backup in Philly. Jalen is going to be a good backup for them. He's probably going to end up starting a few games here, in the near future. But I thought there were other options that were better passers of the ball, and you could at least put some more talent around Carson Wentz right now. Just think, for instance, guys, Greg Ward, who was he was a quarterback in high school, a quarterback at Houston in college, was your starting wide receiver at the end of the season. You had a college quarterback as your starting wide receiver. Yeah, yeah, and then you didn't get the best talent possible to go out there at wide receiver. And don't get me wrong, I like the Jalen Reagor. I thought it was an awesome pick, but I thought that was a reach too. If there's some other talent on the board that could have been had, but Jalen's a guy. Hey, he's a yak guy, yards after catch guy. He's going to be very exciting to watch. I think teams are going to try to mimic the speed that what Kansas City has out there, and Jalen Reagor has speed that is every bit as fast and every bit as fluid as Tyreek Hill. It's going to be interesting. One more team I thought had a good draft. Let me go back to this team. I love what the Jacksonville Jaguars did, especially in the top half of their draft. They got the best cornerback in the draft, the guy from Florida, so CJ, where's he at? CJ Henderson. I don't want to say Anderson for some reason, but CJ Henderson's already a pro. But CJ Henderson out of Florida, amazing pick. Best cornerback, I think, in this draft. And then you backdoor that with Kayvon Chaisson, edge rusher pro from LSU, a menace. The kid's a menace. And then you backdoor that with Laviska Shenault Jr. from Colorado. Went to high school at DeSoto. This kid is a monster. He's very physical. I love to watch him play. I like to watch him play in high school. Now I get to see him. I saw him in college. What I loved about him, he loves competition. He turned down offers from LSU and Alabama because he wanted to go to a school that wasn't on the map yet. I love that. And he did his thing at Colorado. Had a few injuries, so that's why he fell in the draft. But hey, man, he lined up everywhere. Everybody knew where the ball was going, but they couldn't stop him. I love watching the kid play. Hamilton's going to be good at the DT. They also picked up Colin Johnson from Texas, Hookem. Yeah, man, I like what Jacksonville did, especially with those first 4 picks. I like what they did. So on that note, guys, man, it's getting a little late, man. So a little winners and losers from the draft. Hope you guys like that. So I'll come back tomorrow and throughout the week, and we'll do some more draft analysis. But yeah, man, just let me know what you guys think. Who do you think won the draft? Who do you think had a good draft? Who do you think had a bad draft? Like I said, I thought the teams that had bad drafts were Philly, but Green Bay. You got to help out Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, guys. On that note, man, I'm out, man. You guys know what I say, man. Every episode, every podcast, do you, man. Don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance. And on that note, man, Ninos Corner, I am out. Ah.